After the failed auction on Bitcoin, I turned very bearish on Bitcoin. I went as far to say I will be shorting every single rally that happens. I will be there and I will be shorting it until we come down to my lower price targets. Well, that lower price target a few weeks later has now been hit. That sits here at $108,000. This is an critical support zone, and now it has been hit. I have finally taken profit on my short trades. And now, on top of that, I'm leaning more bullish. So I know that's a sigh of relief for many people, but I want to be talking you through in a very professional focused video today why I'm leaning bullish, why I've taken profits on that short trade and what we're looking at next. And this is really for the next few weeks. I'm not going to be turning full-on moon boy on you all here, don't worry. I'm going to be talking you through a very, what I will say is decisive level for the push to new all-time highs on Bitcoin. And I personally do believe we will hit a new all-time high on Bitcoin this year. But this decisive level that I want to share with you is going to determine really the next few weeks of price action. So I hope that you're locked in, ready, and looking forward to this one where you're going to not only learn a lot, but you're going to be prepared for the next big moves coming on Bitcoin. So with that said, let's go straight over to the charts and go into what we're all here for, right? And I will pick up right where I left off my last YouTube video where I was still short in this video. And if you go back and watch it, I was explaining why my biggest support zone on this short trade is still down here at $108,000. That for me, starting at the daily naked point of control there, $108,687 still remains, my biggest target zone. And what happened next? Well, very nicely indeed, we came all the way down there. We actually bounced off pretty perfectly on that zone of around the daily naked point of control there, just on 108,700. We got, a little wick through it, but nevertheless, that's where we started to get that bounce. And from here, we've just got an even bigger bounce to the upside right now, trading towards $113,000. So, this was for me, well, the understanding of the trade. Of course, I still had shorts from all-time highs, the failed auction, which if you remember correctly, we were looking for that fake out of the all-time high and a bigger drop to the downside towards $108,000. $108,000 is a stacked support zone, but we had this prediction of come up above all-time high, formed a fake out, get a much larger crash to the downside. We obviously had fractals going on here, and a lot of things pointing towards it. And then we confirmed that failed auction, took the short trade, and then we had a few more rallies in the meantime. And those rallies for me, very nice short opportunities. But now, as I mentioned, we have now hit that price target. I personally did, without hesitating, I took profits on my short. Okay, this was back on the 26th of August, right? The day it actually hit that level. So there's no hindsight here. You can go back and check. This was all posted on the time that we were hitting. So I told my team, this is within the Discord, of course. Take profit 2, hit on my short trade from the failed auction of all-time high as we hit that daily naked point of control at $108,700. Again, that's the exact level there, $108,700 from the previous YouTube video. But you can see, I just want to, would like to spend a little minute here just, emphasizing this, because I am a trader that likes to protect my short trade. I like to. Only 2 reasons I'll ever take profit on a short. And the most common is on a sign of strength. Okay, so that's the most common way I will close out a short. So I'm not looking for max profit. I'm looking to, hedge myself essentially. I'm looking for that hedge once I've got my short from the all-time high. I'm not so keen, generally speaking, on taking profit. But here, I did. This was a very aggressive, I'm trying to time the low. And so that is the rare scenario where I feel we are at this crucial, important support zone. And so it's very easy, just think about this psychologically. When the market's going down, we've already went from 124,000 down to 108. It's very easy in this market to always just think, oh, it's going lower, it's going lower, it's going lower. And then you end up missing the bounce because the market is very easy to reel you into always just thinking, oh, it's going to go lower, it's going to go lower. And then you hit your most biggest support zone. And even at the biggest support zone, the market tricks you into thinking, oh, it's going to go lower, it's going to go lower. And that's why personally, I was very, very strict on myself of just locking in that aggressive take profit. And really, I say take profit 2 here, but it was essentially the take profit 1, because my first take profit I actually compounded back on. So I took the short all-time high, hit my take profit 1, and then on a rally I compounded on that position. So essentially this was, in a way, the take profit 1 of the trade. But okay, we could say take profit 2 there. And so from the failed auction of all-time high, took profits at the, what I didn't know 100% it would be the low. But again, this is the thing. You got to take those profits. You got to not get into the mindset too heavily of, oh, it's going to go lower, it's going to go lower, it's going to go lower. And that that forcefulness of taking the profits there. I say I shorted the exact high off the failed auction. Now I've closed some of that short at the lows 108.7. Would be epic if we pump now. That again was on the 26th of August. Here we are a few days later. And we can see from the low there, well, we've now risen all the way from 108 to, $113,000. So a nice rally indeed. But again, we're not going to be getting too carried away here. We're going to be explaining, are we into resistance? Can we push to all-time highs? What have we got going on here? First of all, before we get to that, just a very, very quick walkthrough. Pretty epic. That was the exact low on to take profit there. But nevertheless, just a quick walkthrough of earnings that we saw in Nvidia. And, the past 24 hours here, I'm going to wrap you through this very quickly. But we had the first sign of strength after the reclaim of the channel. So that was nice. We had, for all those wondering, still bullish on Bitcoin, still expecting new all-time highs this year. Then we had the Nvidia earnings. The earnings are actually very good, but the market crashed yesterday. Nvidia crashed from around 182 after hours. We went from $182 down to around $170. I actually bought the dip. I'm buying a dip, very openly saying it. We were still out there trading around $172. Got my fill limit orders around $174. Today, Nvidia, by the way, opened up at $184. So from my entry to my exit was 6% from an overnight hours fill to the close. I actually ended up closing around $180, but still, still around 4% there. So it was a lovely trade, but just goes to show you that when you get, the earnings were good on Nvidia, and this is what I think a lot of people confused. You had very good earnings on Nvidia, actually, but the market dropped after hours. So it's like I was saying here, this is a shakeout of the weak hands before the next rise. Go and look at Nvidia. The after hours down to 170, opening today, New York open to $184, right? That really was the after hours shakeout of the weak hands. I even had people, if you look at over on Twitter, I even had people saying that I was wrong by being bullish, and they will, there you go, look, short it. This guy is saying short it. Well, my exact reply was, you can short an Nvidia for the small correction. I'm just going to buy the dip. And again, buying the dip was the correct thought process there, because again, we went from 174 to open up today $180. Anyway, moving on there. Bought a dip. And then yesterday, between the hours of 1 a.m. and 4 a.m., 4 a.m. was the more conservative entry, 1 a.m. was the aggressive entry. We then had another long trade set up on Bitcoin. So on this drop to the downside here, just listen carefully here. I'm explaining this so you learn. Okay, again, this is talking you through the prior price action, but it's the theory that I'm teaching you here that you can use in your next trade setups the next time you see this. So you had the Nvidia earnings. Even though they were good earnings, the market, had that shakeout first. The Nvidia, of course, dropped. You saw the stock market, the futures such as ES dropping. You saw Bitcoin drop, all of them dropping at the same time, and that's because they're correlated. So you had that move to the downside. I would have actually longed Bitcoin here, but I was focused on Nvidia. I longed the Nvidia dip. I missed this Bitcoin drop. And again, I'm not going to FOMO into it. It was a very nice wick to the downside, a very, very large wick you can see here. So what are we looking for there? Then we filled a wick. This is a trade setup in itself, a filled a wick trade. So you actually then, during the hours of the morning, you came down and you filled the wick. And not only did you fill the wick, you had then trap short. So this was sort of the order flow was looking like. You had 13 million shorts, and then into the actual filling of the wick, you had another 5 million shorts, all on open interest increases, as you can see there. Open interest increases, negative delta, leaving you trap shorts in the actual wick of the move. Here you can see the candle open, close. There's the low, of course, and the high. And each wick, you see the point of control of the candle with the open interest increases, with that, negative delta. So it's just showing you aggressive shorts into support. And I personally was a little bit conservative, so I took the long trade a little bit after that as we were starting to show the strength. And there was a few reasons behind this. Well, we've filled the wick, I've seen the shorts, and we were getting enough of a bounce for me to say, okay, this is a nice long trade, invalidation below the low. And then a few hours later, we started to get that move up around 6 a.m., okay, 5 a.m. So around 45 minutes later is where we started to get then the bounce underway towards where we are now, $113,000. So yeah, you had to be awake fairly early for those types of trades, but you know, that really brings us up to where we are right now. So, well, now I'll be talking you through what I'm looking at next on Bitcoin. So I always like to talk you through that prior price action, really, so you just can learn from it. Again, if you want the insights ahead of time, or you can, of course, get these types of things from the Champions group. This is why we have a Champions membership package. It's for the updates first, you know, trading updates go first to the members. Okay, it's something that you have to understand. With that said, though, here on YouTube, you know, you can learn from this information still. And, oh, now you can take benefit of understanding what we're looking at next. So Bitcoin actually here, I do not want to overcomplicate things. At the end of the day, we have this very nice parallel channel going on. We have the range low. We have a range high. We have done a very nice, very similar to how we had that first high. Remember, this was our big failed auction setup of the all-time highs. We traded above, back test, and then we came back down below. That gave us all the way to the other side of a range. Now, essentially, we've done something very similar here. We have traded below the range. You can even see how it was prior support locally, but we've traded now below the range, back test, reclaim. Well, this has started the activation of a very large bullish failed auction. But, you know, what was the one key thing of how this started to get more bearish? So when we pulled our fixed range of the range and we got the acceptance into the value area high, at this point it was like, yeah, you know, the market is very, very weak. So at the same point, if the failed auction was the entry trigger, of course, but the real confirmation of weakness was as we got into the value area high. So the same thing we can say now. You could have took the long trade on the reclaim of the channel, confirming a failed auction of the range. But the real sign of strength here comes on a reclaim of the value area low, just as the real weakness came on the loss of the value area high. So for me, you know, my thoughts on Bitcoin, and then I'll lead this into the actual how we can trade this. The value area low is very key. Very quickly here, I would like to do one thing for you all, and that's give away another $1,000. Every video, we're giving away $1,000. So, you know, this is all laid out for you over in the Discord. You can come along, join the giveaway, free to enter. Information in the description, join for free via the email, right? It's just very easy to get into. But we're going to give away $1,000 to everybody that has entered. So let's pick two winners, $500 each. Going to make this as quick as possible. But it's always nice to give away some money. So we just had our first winner. So you do have to have traded $1 on your account. This stops people entering with like 1 million accounts, right? Because you can only trade on one account, KYC. So unfortunately, this guy has not traded $1, so he is not the winner. So let's spin the wheel again. 2 winners. You do have to have traded more than $1. So it's a very easy requirement, you would think. This guy is one. So if this is your user ID, you just won $500. Send us a direct message to customer service and we will send you your $500. Next winner we are picking now, and that is, congratulations to this guy. Yes, you traded more than $1. You're eligible, and that is another $500 given away. That is $1,000 in total. And yes, we are sending this money out. It is a real giveaway. You probably see this all the time, but a lot of them are fake. This is a real one. The winners actually are receiving their money. So congratulations to those winners. $500 each. That's another $1,000 given away. Of course, this right now is linked with Bybit, but we are opening this up next time, because I understand some people are not able to trade, for example, USA, UK people, Femex, which is available to everybody, and we might be doing that on BingX. So if you are interested in that, all links down in the description. But yeah, let's move on to the next part of this video. So how does this actually result in trades? Well, personally, right where we are here, 113K, I'm still leaning more bullish. I have not shorted any of this rally to the upside. I've not taken a single short on any of this. And even here, I do not actually have an interest in taking a short trade. Why? Well, for 2 reasons. One, we are at high term time frame support, but not just that. I do not feel we've had any good, we've not had a good short trade setup actually form here. So yeah, for me, there's not a short to be had here. So what will I be looking for next? Well, I will be looking actually towards, you all know, right, that value area low. So that's going to be sitting, I think there's two areas of interest. First is the mini range high, of course. And then we can hide this parallel channel, so towards the mini range high. And this is pushing us towards $115,000. So at this zone is where I'd say, well, I'll open myself up to the short trade. Does that mean I'm going to take one? No, I'm just opening myself up. This is an area, once hit, I will be actively looking for a short. Thus far in this section, well, I guess I've been willing to take a short if one is formed, but we haven't had a single short trade set up for. So I have not taken one. I'm not interested in a short trade here either. For me, we have to see above the range high for me to have any interest in starting to see a short trade form here. So a few things to bear in mind. First of all is the CME gap. You are fighting on acceptance right now. It's a little bit of chop around a CME gap, but we can understand this is not really what I would call strength. So this is, well, I guess at the moment it's just chop. But we can understand that if we do start to actually get some strength above 114K here, then we do have that CME gap as well. So, you know, I just tell you this so you do not forget. Remind yourself of that CME gap. It is a very important CME gap. They, of course, are very likely to be filled, but I would not class this just yet as acceptance. This is at the moment chop. This is just a little bit of... you know, even for me, this is hard to read price action. I wouldn't place one way or the other. Would not class it as acceptance, I know that. But I wouldn't class it just yet as a rejection either. This is difficult price action to trade. And that's what I will always say. You do not want to be trying to trade every bit of price action, okay? You want to wait for the best trade setups. And that for me right now, as mentioned, would be on another rise to the upside. Again, could price drop from here? Yes. And that just means, well, I didn't short the high. I'm not going to get every single trade. And as a trader, I'm not aiming for every single trade. You know, I could have shorted here to here. I could have shorted here to here. I could short here. I'm just not interested in trying to take the trades when it doesn't line up with what I want to see. So again, I'm willing to miss some trades, some pivots, because I will wait for the best trades and the best pivots. And so, yeah, that again is going to be coming up off of the range high to the value area low. That for me is my next key, you know, as I said at the start of this video, the real decisive factor that if we can reclaim the value area low, yes, I do feel that we can get a strong push towards all-time high. Again, very key emphasis on $118,000, but nevertheless, still feel there's a strong push towards all-time high coming. But right, we cannot get too bullish while we're below this value area low, right? So, you know, as a professional trader, I can just end with this tip. Like, we do not know what's going to happen next. There's no way of, you know, I know a lot of people want me to say, oh yeah, Bitcoin's definitely going to rise, everybody just long. However much you'd like me to just say that, you know, I have standards. Let's just say that, right? I'm not a sellout. I'm not here to do just say something to make you feel happy. No, I'm here to keep it real. I'm here to keep it professional, and I'm here to actually explain how to make money trading, right? That's how you make money trading. You have to be aware that trading is not just black and white. Oh yeah, we're going to go up. No, nobody knows, right? So if you're in a game of probabilities, there is no definite outcome. You can only trade high probabilities. Just as in poker, you only want to play a high probability hand. Who's playing a 2-7? Not many people. Who's playing pocket aces? Well, the majority of people are going to play that, right? So it's just like in trading. Am I going to take a short, a completely random point of the chart where I have no trade, no edge? I'm not going to do that, right? 2-7. We pull back to a crucial level of support, rise to a really nice level of resistance. Well, that's where I start to have those pocket aces. That's where I have high probabilities for a good trade setup. Well, I'm willing to trade that. So just if you understand risk management, I would love to refer to this to poker, like just as you would throw or you would fold a bad hand. You know, sometimes you will check, and this is what I'm doing at the moment. I'm checking. I don't want to take a trade here. You know, I'm on the edge. I know where I'm going to be right. I'm going to wait for the flop. I'm going to wait for the market to show its hands. And there, I'm ready and waiting to execute. That's why we build trading plans. We build probabilities. We build statistics. This is the one and only way to truly make it in trading. It's not easy. It takes time, but the rewards Well, they're more than fruitful. They are more than fruitful with the amount of money you can make in this market. But again, it just comes down to stop taking stupid trades, stop taking bad trades, be patient, and just wait for the good trade setups. And then on top of that, right, it comes down to this. When you hit your crucial support levels that you've been shorting since all-time highs for, take profits. I done that. That is the exact low of the move. That literally was the exact low of the move there, 108.7. So, you know, some people will say, oh, how is it possible to predict Bitcoin? How can you predict this market? Predicted the exact high. We come down and we hit the exact low. There is nothing random in that. Failed auction of all-time highs, coming down to the biggest, most crucial support of 108K. Like, you might think it's magic, but it's something that I absolutely can teach you. There's two things I want to say before I end. First of all is really simply, if you do want to learn all that, chartchampions.com, full educational course. You got the trading updates. You know what we're doing. We got the live trading streams. Right now, Severin's live trading the stock market. He's already made $4,000 during this live trading stream. Like, we got live trading. If you want to see the theory live in the time, come over and join the chat and look at this. Like, people absolutely love it. www, win. These are all wins. People are taking wins. 272. But if you want live trading, this is the place to be. I'll tell you that. On top of that, if you want to learn, this is also, we're just the home of trading. And there's one thing that I actually want to ask you before I end. And that is something that I find, well, to me, very important. And something that I'm happy to do videos on if there's enough interest. And that actually stemmed from, you know, talking about a trust. So I made this post. If you are trading without a trust, so we're talking about, you know, an actual like organizational type level, you know, you could have trust foundations. You know, there's different ways to manage this. But I would recommend, even as a smaller player, you know, setting yourself up. Again, I cannot do this via tax advice or any type of advice, but I can just give my opinions, I suppose, and setups that I've got. I have a trust. And so, you know, I can give my opinions, you know, should you have an offshore company here, or should you create it there? Should you have your trust in America, or should you have your trust Isle of Man, for example? Like, there's several different options, and it's not that one's better than the other. This is why I'd always say ask a tax, you know, set yourself up with one of the big four. But nevertheless, I can give you my best of opinions if that's of interest to you. And I say this, like, a lot of the comments here of it, well, you have to be so rich. You don't actually. Like, you don't need to be a billionaire to have a trust. Okay, most people probably are, but you don't need to be super rich to have a trust. Like, you have profits that compound efficiently, tax efficiently, right? Divorce, you know, in the worst case scenario, you get divorced. You know, trust is officially not your asset. You know, if you trade via a company and you are the sole shareholder of that company, you know, your assets are at risk here, right? But if you have a trust, well, guess what? The trust is, you know, it's not directly tied to you. You are just a beneficiary of the trust, right? So there's a lot of advantages that people don't think about. Probate won't freeze your accounts. So, you know, you also have advantages on inheritance, things like this. You decide when to take distributions. There's a whole nother topic that I could go over, like a trust versus a foundation. A trust, you are, of course, dependent on trustees, but it has more prestige worldwide. You know, there's a lot of things that you know, and this is a lot of it's self-taught, but I've got a lot, of course, also experience. I've paid hundreds of thousands of dollars in, you know, lawyer and accounting and professional advice. And so, you know, through paying for that advice, through the experience of actually having these setups, you know, I've learned a lot. And I'm not to say I'm not an expert, of course, but I have learned a lot. And so if that's of interest to you anyway, should you trade for a company, should you have offshore, should you have a trust, I would always go top level trust, then maybe some companies underneath it, but they're all owned by the trust. I don't think you personally need to own any of your companies. But again, that's the same with me. I would never, ever, ever want to be trading through my personal name. I would never want to own real estate in my personal name. I wouldn't even want to own these things in a company I own. Like, put it all into the trust, into the foundation. You know, this should be your top level. But again, there's a lot to discuss. Let me know down below. If that's of interest to you, let me know. Apart from that, yeah, I hope you've enjoyed. I've talked you through the Bitcoin chart, why I'm not shorting yet, where I'll be looking up towards. I forgot to actually talk about support. But if we do get a pullback here, I have a lot of interest to around $111,000. So $111,000 would be like a pullback zone. And you can see why we, why are we struggling here? We are at the range value area high. So if we do struggle range value area high, well, if we start to pull back towards, 111, and I'm still very keen in playing that support. Of course, we cannot forget it before I end. We do have that lower scenario for if we do get a full another reversal. We still have backup support, $107,000 to $108,000. Okay. Anyway, that can be for another video now because this one's going on. I want to end it. Hope you've enjoyed. Thank you ever so much. If you have, you know what to do. Smash those likes, leave a comment down below. And yeah, if you want to join the next giveaway, we're just giving away $1,000 on this one. Instructions down in the description. And for everybody else, also, we got that FemX and BingX. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed. Thank you ever so much. Cheers, everybody, and goodbye.